What is up, everyone? This is episode 55 of the Standing A podcast. I'm joined by the usual suspects, Courtney Tanner from abroad and Tommy Rose Jr. in Texas. Michael Gomes, he has some personal family emergency to attend to, but we wish him we wish him well. What's up, guys? Tommy, Courtney. We have a big guest planned for tonight. Montell Griffin. Hopefully, he'll be coming in very shortly. But until then, let's talk about some of the fights that happened this past week. Courtney, let's talk, and Tommy, let's talk about the Sinisa Estrada the first round knockout within 7 seconds. I believe it was reported as the fastest knockout ever in women's boxing. So, Courtney, let's get your thoughts on that fight, that comeback fight from the pandemic for Sinisa.
Hey, Standing A podcast alumnus doing great things, doing very devastating things in the ring. A shout out to Superbad. We can actually literally say that's our girl right there, yo. But I mean, in terms of the fight, there wasn't really much to talk about, man. 7 seconds, in with a pretty much a novice boxer coming in at 42 years old with only three personal and three professional fights. I think that was just a bad look as far as not necessarily scheduling that fight, but sanctioning that type of fight, man. I mean, that's how people get hurt. I think state commissions definitely need to do a better job in looking at fighters' records, fighters' age, fighters' physical condition when scheduling the fight. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing to take away from our friend Superbad Estrada. You know what I'm saying? She did what a fighter does. You know what I'm saying? Goes in there and takes the fights and clocks off the job early. That was, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, what was done, that's what was supposed to have been done. I think on the state level, the regulatory bodies within boxing, that's where they need to do a better job of protecting fighters, because we love to see devastating knockouts. This would have been a totally different conversation that we're having if that had taken a turn for the worse. It's coming off a year like we saw last year. We saw literally a lot of people get ended in the ring. I think, everybody's breathing a collective grasp. It's like, okay, she's okay. Now, you know what I'm saying, we can talk about the devastating performance put in by Superbad Estrada. So
that's what's up. Tommy, what are your thoughts? Also, my take on it, I know it wasn't I know the opponent, of course, it wasn't, up to semi caliber to match Sinisa Estrada, but to give credit to Sinisa, she was just supposed to do what she was supposed to do. At least, for what we could take out from it, if she, as a professional and as an expert as she is, at least she ended it early. For the fans, so she didn't waste no time. So Tommy, give us your thoughts on her performance.
So, man, once again, shout out to Sinisa. We love Sinisa. As Courtney said, alumni of Standing A podcast, we support fully. I could tell at the weigh-in that this was about to end bad. When I saw homegirl at the weigh-in, after she stepped off the scale and she posed for her picture, like the way she had her hands was just like she was just waiting there, just like she had no posture. And then when like Courtney said, I think it was 3 fights. I think they actually had her listed for like 5 fights and 5 KOs. So 5 for 5 with KOs. I immediately after that fight said I want to see the film on those 5 fights.
Right.
She got these 5 KOs, because when she stepped in that ring, when that bell rung, she was still in the corner. She like it took her a couple of the 7 seconds that the fight lasted. She was still in the corner, and Sinisa was on her ass, sharp as a tack, ready to attack. And she laid that shit down on her. There wasn't nothing that could happen after that. Like it was clean and crisp. And just like you said, Aaron, she did what she was supposed to do. She shined on the bright lights. She was there to put on the show, and that's exactly what she did. Courtney, what's up, man?
Yo, Sanisa would have knocked out most male 112-pound fighters with those shots. You know what I'm saying? She landed on her.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? I'm you know, like I said, I'm not taking anything away from her because, you know what I'm saying? Those shots that she landed and landed clean, those were landed with deadly intentions, and they were, you know what I'm saying? They were pretty crispy. So, you know what I'm saying? I think she would have laid most dudes in there at 112 to 115 pounds out with those types of shots that she came out of the corner with.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we've already seen, you know, on social media, you know, her opponent is showing that she's doing well, you know, which we're all glad for, you know, first and foremost, which we could even see in the ring that Sanisa was very concerned, you know, as she was, you know, out initially, but clean shots, and you know, it is what it is. She trained hard, but she was no match for Super Bad. And she came in there with super bad intentions and delivered them heavily.
There was this, I don't know if just after that fight, there's a fighter from abroad, from Japan. Did you notice someone was calling from across the globe? It kind of gave me the Bolo vibes from Bloodsport, like you are next. So let me pronounce her name. Hopefully I don't butcher it. Naoko Fuyoka, who's also the current the WBA female flyweight champion. Courtney, since you know you're more in tune with the lower division fighters, female as well. Do you have any surface thoughts on this fighter, calling her out?
Yeah, I'm familiar. You know what I'm saying? I've been up on the. I'm in tune with what goes on at the lower divisions, below 118 in boxing, and also as much as I can, I try to follow women's boxing internationally too. It's actually bigger in you know, when you look at women's boxing, it's getting bigger over here, but it's actually pretty huge in countries like Japan, down in Mexico, and over in Argentina. So, you know, those are and I think what we saw in the Katie Taylor versus Pursoon fight is, you know, there's women who will come from, you know, what we would think is an obscure region or an obscure country, and they come and they bring heat because, you know what I'm saying, they've been doing it for years. The fight scene for women is more vibrant over there, and they're challenged in their careers earlier on, and with steadier opponents, steadier management, fight for bigger purses. So, you know, that part of the game is way more established over there. So, you know what I'm saying, I saw that post. I'm familiar with that fighter. I've never really seen much on her. I'm not even sure how to pronounce the name, so I'm not going to attempt it. But I saw that post, and I think the most ominous thing was the belts that she had draped around her shoulders and around her waist. She was looking like another San Diego alumnus, Clarissa Shields, in that photo, and she had a very Clarissa Shields-esque attitude, basically saying, "Hey, that was an impressive win, but you shouldn't have even been in there against that woman." So that was a pretty dark and ominous post, and I think, like I said, we got all the love in the world for Super Bad. Love, you know, saying love so much seeing her progression, and you know, and seeing her as an alumnus from the show, and basically seeing her do things like the performance she just turned in. She fights that lady from Japan. That's going to be an entirely different proposition for her, and I think that's a woman who's got about 30 to 40 fights in the game. So I'm not saying Sunisia isn't ready for that, but I'm saying that that's going to be a fight that goes way more than 7 seconds. So I'd like to see it. I think Eddie Hearn or Oscar, you know, they should definitely think about bringing her over to DAZN, as they brought some other fighters from the region over. Yeah, no, I'd like to see Super Bad just continue to grow and develop and have some more exciting fights, rather than opposed to just getting thrown in with somebody who is like probably a living legend in women's boxing over in Japan right now.
So yeah, so hopefully, Tommy, let me get your last thoughts on this segment. What do you think? I think it would be great for Sinisa to have that her very first, that villain opponent, and that would just bring women's boxing further if she would have her own counterpart, especially from someone overseas who's calling her out like that. So Tommy, give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same wave I'm on, man. Like that post coming out the way that it did,
Yeah.
the verbiage that she used, the picture, like Courtney said, with them belts. She was like, "Hey, you might have won this one, but now you're on to the ultimate challenge. Now you got to face another boss, somebody that was an unexpected character to come out the game and is ready to fucking kick some ass." Like I'm gonna be honest, I don't know a lot about her. I did the research and just looked her up and saw stuff like that, but like a record and things of that nature. But I don't know a lot about her, but all I know is she's with them shits, man. Like she's ready to go. And just like you said, Courtney, that she's like, yeah, congrats on your win. With like a little subtle laugh, like, yeah, that was cute. Now bring your ass over here and let's go. And for somebody to do that after a performance like that, and yes, Sinisa was supposed to be in the ring with somebody else. That was what was supposed to happen. Her opponent took that fight and we got what we got. But either way, Superbad is Superbad. And we're for sure that this chick knows that business already. It's not like she's new to this. She's probably already been watching Sinisa, and she knows that she's got some major talent, and she's still ready for that drama. So I want to see it. They need to make this shit happen, like on one of the next fight cards in a month and a half or so. Like, bring that shit now. What's up, Courtney? What you got, man?
Hey, and my mind just goes back to the last time we had Superbad on the broadcast, and she is a woman who is very direct in addressing the drama and addressing the bullshit. So I'm looking at the camera, Sinisa, Superbad champ. If you're interested in coming back on the show and addressing the gentlewoman from Japan, hey, please be our guest. You are welcome to do so. You have an open platform and open mic with Standing 8. If you if you feel like you want to if you want to speak on that, hey, please, we would love to have you back on so you can speak on it here and we can get the exclusive on that. But yeah, we said all that. It's like Tommy said. Mrs. Estrada has had no qualms about addressing other people who've stepped up and who basically ran their mouth on social media. So so. I don't. I think the clapback is going to come. Is going to come pretty dire and pretty soon on Superbad thing right there. So
great points. Before we transition to Virgil Ortiz performance against Samuel Vargas, let me just plug in Montell Ice's Griffin's book. He's a planned guest tonight, but just in case he can't make it. We just want to give a shout out to Montell Ice Griffin. He has his book out, his vivid autobiography, which I think it was released in June last month. It's called The Ice Life. You could get it out, theicelifebook.com. Let's devote a few moments of speaking on Montell Ice Griffin. He fought at top ranked light heavyweight in the throughout in the midst of the 90s. Tommy, give us your initial thoughts on Montell Ice Griffin as far as his career and what he's been through. Your thoughts?
Man, Montell Ice Griffin was a warrior, dude. He was very unorthodox, but super solid. He was always there in the thick of things for several years. As you said, had his titles shots. He's been bringing it. He did it. He fought Roy Jones, which y'all know how I feel about Roy Jones. I ain't even gonna get into all of that, but all of that, that was memorable for me. Growing up. But you know, his fights with James Toney. Shout out to James Toney, Courtney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He faced James Toney twice in 95 and 96.
Yes, he did, man. Gave him some bouts, you know, and everybody can't step to James Toney in that way, and he did, man. And so, you know, he's been an absolute, you know, bona fide champion. You know, he's been in there, and you know, I had the pleasure of meeting him while I was out at the Garcia Vargas event. You know, we chopped it up out there, and very humble dude, you know, down to earth. I love that dude, man. And so, you know, hopefully we do get him on at some point in time, regardless if it's today or another day. But, you know, check out his book and check out the life on this man.
Great words, Tommy. Courtney, I'll give your thoughts on the career of Montell Ice Griffin.
Started out, you know, it started out thoroughly as any career gets. You know, saying people, you know, people. There's a lot of casuals who vaguely remember Montell Griffin for his fights with you know, James Toney and Roy Jones. But a lot of people sleep on the fact that this guy was on one of the most talent-laden U.S. Olympic teams out there. You know what I'm saying? He was on that 92 team with obviously one of my favorite all-time boxer of all time, Oscar De La Hoya.
Vernon Forrest.
Vernon Forrest was on that team.
Yep.
Raul Marquez, another future champion, was on that team. Chris Bird, another future champion, was on that U.S. Olympic team. Tim Austin, one of my favorite little guys, also a bronze medalist from that U.S. Olympic team. So, and that was a team that Sugar Shane Mosley was a heartbeat away from making. So, you know, when you can say you were on an Olympic squad that Sugar Shane Mosley, a Hall of Famer, didn't quite make, you know what I'm saying, that's huge. That's big. So, you know what I'm saying? So, like, you know, for that alone, you know what I'm saying, Montell Griffin is a person who, you know what I'm saying, who has my respect to the fullest, just off that accomplishment. Because, you know, this is the thing, and I've spoken on this various times too, is in the United States, amateur boxing is not really amateur boxing anymore. You know what I'm saying? We don't produce a lot of world level guys. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, you know what I'm saying, that's why guys in the game right now, like Shakur Stevenson, are, you know what I'm saying, a big deal, because they're, you know what I'm saying, they're America's pride as far as what they're doing in professional boxing and how they competed at a world level when they were amateurs. We don't really get a lot of guys coming out of the amateurs like that, because we get a lot of guys who were in the amateurs as a transition to a pro career. We don't have a lot of guys who were, you know what I'm saying, who were successful on that international level. So, you know what I'm saying,
right.
Montell Griffin comes out of an era when guys were still thorough in that, you know what I'm saying, they were world-class operators at the amateur level, where you look at amateur boxing in that era when it was when it was still the head guard, still the 16 to 18 ounce gloves, still the point scoring system, as far as how many shots you land on your opponent to what actually scores. That was almost an entirely different sport when he was when he was playing his trade in the amateurs. So the transition from that and be world class at that level and to be a champion as a professional, hey, that speaks volumes. Maybe Montell Griffin doesn't get the recognition because he doesn't have the wins that stick in the minds of a lot of casual fans or whatever. But I mean, the guy, you know, the guy was a multiple-time champion. The guy did it at a high caliber level in a very talent-laden era in the late '90s and early 2000s. So I hope we get him on, you know, to talk to him about all these things we're mentioning. But I mean, it's one of those things where you know, people have stuff going on. Even if he can't get on with us, it's just an honor to to bring this info to the fans and pretty much devote a segment to him on this podcast. So, you know what I'm saying? I think we're blessed enough to be able to get to do that. So, but hopefully we get him on, man. Looking forward to talking to him.
Yeah, hey, and one thing that you know we talked about, excuse me, one thing that we talked about last week, you know, when we covered the the Eddie Sanchez fight. What happened in that ring? And the common ground with Montell. Montell ended up getting a DQ win, against Roy Jones, and in the same fashion, right? He got hit in the head with a thudding shot, and he went down. After that punch, whatever anybody thinks about, how he was impacted by that punch, it was a punch while he was down on his knee. And that was one thing that instantly came to my mind when I saw what happened, in that fight with Eddie, was, the fact that Eddie had the balls and the true grit, as they say these days, to just say fuck it and like eat that, even though it was a hard shot, and battle through that. And they gave him a warning for that. But on a world champion scale, Griffin got a DQ. It's just it's a shame to see the differences and types of things like that. And I just wanted to talk about that because that was one thing that pissed me off, about Eddie's fight. That should have damn been a DQ. And just like, somebody that is supposed to be a guest with us, Montell, it was. And that was on the highest level. It was called the right way. So that was some bullshit.
And Roy Jones has said various times he did deserve to lose that fight because of the severity of that blow. And I think as what in interviews I've always heard Roy Jones see it is like he said, I know I hit him when I was down. It wasn't a malicious intent. It was momentum that carried me. You know what I'm saying? That's neither here or there though. But Roy Jones, being the champion that he was, always admitted that yes, I deserved to lose that fight. And that's and that's why he was keen to do an immediate rematch with Montell Griffin. But I've never heard Roy Jones say, oh, that was unfair, that was unjust. He he always conceded that I hit that man when he was down. So
As you can see, I pulled up a comment from Jaron Duke Reeves, who's a member of our Facebook group, Pound for Pound. What's up, Jaron? I think this was a follow up to your previous point, Courtney. He states because the USA brings teenagers to fight 30-year-old men from other countries. Did you want to respond to that, Courtney?
Oh yeah, I'd love to respond to that. I think there is a lot of factual basis in what my man Duke is saying right there, but this is the thing. It's also different mind states about the state of amateur boxing. People, as far as boxers in America, you're not going to stay as Americans. We're not keen to stay where we're not being taken care of. We're not keen to devote the entirety of ourselves to where we're not seeing the right financial compensation. In America, the gyms that are still, still producing the top-rated amateurs are often in the most impoverished areas in this country, as far as New York, as far as Chicago, as far as Philadelphia. So these kids, a lot of them, they have grand aspirations of going to the Olympics or going to the World Championships or going to the Pan Am Games, getting medals, but the thing is, when you're seeing your siblings and your mother and your family members go to bed with hurt in their stomachs off not being able to eat right. When you live in a neighborhood that's where there's people who are being shaken down, there's gunplay, involved or whatever. Yeah, your priority is going to be to get out of that situation. So I think that's a driving factor in a lot of these guys at young ages, developing in the amateur system, but using that as a conduit to put, to getting with the promoter and getting in the pro game. And basically the medals and standing on podiums become secondary, as opposed to where Duke says, he talks about these 30-year-old guys from other countries. A lot of these guys they're coming from Olympic programs and amateur boxing programs that are government subsidized. When you're coming from, let's say you're coming from like Lomachenko, he was he earned gold medals in 2 Olympics. The government of Ukraine made sure his dad was taken care of for training him. They made sure he was married. He had kids at the time. He made sure the government over there made sure his kids had formula and diapers or whatever. And his wife was given job opportunity or whatever. So, you know, you see a lot of these guys who are, you know what I'm saying, who are 30-year-old amateurs coming to box at multiple Olympics. A lot of the times it's because they're, you know what I'm saying, they're being taken care of by an entire system that's government funded. So they can, you know what I'm saying, their emphasis is on, yeah, when you're being taken care of, you want, you know what I'm saying, you want to reciprocate. You want to bring glory to your country. You want to bring a gold medal. You want to stand on the podium while your country's anthem is playing in the background or whatnot. So, you know, when you're incentivized like that, it reciprocates. But when you look at amateur boxing in the U.S. and the, you know, the training opportunities, the facilities, the amount of money that goes into it for U.S. American boxers, it's night and day. As far as when we're talking about those 30-year-olds, that those 18 and 19-year-olds are coming to fight in the Olympics. So,
thank you, Jaron, for that comment. So moving on, we got the next fight that happened after Sinisa, the Virgil Ortiz versus Samuel Vargas fight. I saw the fight. It was a very competitive fight, given the circumstance. Samuel Vargas was a game opponent. He withstood those body shots in particular very well, imposed by Virgil Ortiz. So, Tommy, give us your thoughts on that fight.
So first off, shout out to Virgil Ortiz Jr. out of Grand Prairie, Texas, representing, looking outstanding out there. Man, Samuel Vargas was very game, you know, and you can see that even in the end when the fight was stopped. It was a good stoppage. I'm gonna say that to start, but he wasn't out of it. You know, he was just taking a beating. And I mean, it was solid. I mean, we saw to a point where Virgil landed, what was it, like 5 straight shots in a row right to his dome, like just blah, blah, blah. And he just kept nailing. Like it was very, very brutal. But it almost seemed like the whole entire fight, like that was, you know, Vargas's game. Was he wanted to get into around 8 or 9, 10 and try to, you know, just withstand it. That was the wrong game plan, man, because Virgil came out there seek and destroy style. Like he was coming forward. He controlled that ring. He was tearing his body up. He was landing at will pretty much the whole entire fight. And almost every single one of them blows, even his jab, like his jab was nasty. Like, it was nasty. It wasn't crispy. It was nasty. He was dominating the entire fight. So I was impressed with what I saw. You know, out of what was it, like a 200 plus day layoff for Virgil, I believe it was.
I think so.
Yeah. So for him to get out there and to look as sharp as he did. You know, we've already talked about it, you know, as Courtney said earlier, as far as the us, you know, talking a little shit last episode. This dude's got a mature body on him. He's filled out. Like he may even gain a few more pounds of muscle or something as he goes along, because he's still very young, you know, but man, he's ready. I think he's ready for the top tier in welterweight. I don't think that, you know, he's out to just dominate anybody in the top tier, but I think that he's there. I think he's ready. I don't think that he's on a let's see him against, you know, Porter or somebody like that. I think that he's absolutely ready for one of the biggest shots that he can get in the welterweight division right now.
Now, before I take it to Courtney, I want to just add a comment. You know, Virgil, I would say thanks to the trainer Garcia, he's able to keep it, pick it up another notch, another offensive gear when he wants to, especially during the middle of the course of the fight. So, Courtney, you want to speak on that as well as his performance against Samuel Vargas?
You know, I always, you know, I've been saying lately with a lot of these fights that are you know, that promoters are putting on. This is the first fight that the Zone has put on in this new normal era. You know what I'm saying? With so my biggest criticism of the fights we've seen so far with Top Rank is the level of competition has been garbage for a lot of, for a lot of these guys. And commissary told, that these guys are skill level. Props for, props to the zone for putting on a fight where a guy was in there against, a guy who came ready to fight, a guy who came believing in his own ability that he could at least press the fight, if not win it. So Samuel Vargas, he's one of the more durable opponent level type guys at 147. You can always compare how one guy looks against somebody or a common factor. My man Dane Lee calls it the triangle theory. So, not too many people put too much into it. But I think about how Danny Garcia looked against Sammy Vargas. And I also think I look at, if I'm not mistaken, Amir Khan also fought Samuel Vargas. I think those guys made quicker work of him than Virgil Ortiz. But when you pair the circumstance of Virgil Ortiz coming in there off such a long layoff and looking as mean and vicious against this dude who didn't come, who didn't come to, take a dive or whatever, that speaks volumes. I know, Aaron, you asked me, you kicked the mic to me asking me a question. I hate to respond to questions that are asked by asking questions, but I can't resist the opportunity. Since we're we're on the this level, and this extends to my man Tommy too, is somebody made a comment in the group. I'm back in FB jail for another 2 weeks, or but we won't get, you guys are getting off topic now, but so I can see the post. I can't offer comments or responses directly, but I remember looking at the thread and seeing somebody say off top that Virgil Ortiz is ready for a one-time Thurman, is ready for a Danny Garcia, is ready for a Sean Porter, like right now. What do you guys think about that? You guys think Virgil is ready right now? Or in all honesty, do you think he needs a few more fights to develop, or just shake some of the the minor ring rust off before he gets to those guys? Do you think he's ready to get in with those guys right now in terms of one-time Porter or Danny Garcia?
I think he's really ready, like 100%. I think he's really ready. I don't think there's nothing holding him back to not take those fights. I think I don't. Just to add to that, I don't. He didn't mention. He didn't mention the other top dog, Errol Spence, because he's still trying to develop his body, try to get to that peak, especially from that car accident. So that's why he didn't put his name into those other ring of names in the immediate discussion. But as far as him facing the Keith Thurmans, the Sean Porters, the Danny Garcias, I think from what I've seen so far, he's more than Virgil Ortiz is more than game to take on those fights. But given the business side and try to max out everyone's selling potential, I don't see that fight happening right away. I think those other household names in the welterweight division, they're waiting for Virgil Ortiz's name, his stock to rise up first before taking that risk to make that fight. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I think I remember what you were talking about. I want to say somebody might have mentioned Boots Ennis as well.
But they said Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz had been calling out all those guys, and that those guys didn't want to smoke. So that's that's pretty much the intention of me asking the question.
Okay, and I remember somebody actually was saying that Boots was too slick for him. But either way, I think that
was D-Rock who said that.
Yeah, I think but I think that as far as a one-time, a Porter, people like that, maybe Porter, Porter is he's always the tough opponent for almost anybody just because of the way he fights. But my point with it is, I think that if we get somebody that's super slick and quick and agile in the ring, with Virgil Ortiz of that caliber, I think that might be something that we haven't seen presented to him at this point in time. Somebody with that type of level of experience and quickness and swiftness, because he does like to kind of stay right in front of you and come right forward and just bang. So that could present a problem, as far as with his youth and experience, overall. But talent-wise and what we've seen, dude's ready, man. Dude's ready. And if anything, it could be, obviously he wants all the smoke, but at the same time, we know good and damn well that, him, just like Earl Spence, they from the same metroplex. They both from DFW. That could be one of those things where he feels like, all right, well, maybe after I whoop ass on this next fight and prove everybody, right or wrong again about me and what I can do, then I call out Arrow or somebody like that. But until then, I need to call these other guys out in a respectful manner. The guy, you could even see it in the ring. Like when he got kind of stopped, in the ring for what he did, he was very apologetic with the ref. He's very professional. So I feel like maybe there might be a little bit of a sense of, in the city respect for Arrow, but he's coming for Arrow, point blank, period.
Just a rebound from what Tommy was saying, going back to those names you mentioned, Corny, like Keith Thurman, Sean Porter. I'll briefly break it down on a more technical level. As far as Keith Thurman, I think the advantage Keith Thurman might have over Virgil Ortiz is that he has experience and he has smarts in the ring. So I think whatever talents Virgil Ortiz may bring, I think Thurman has that intellect to expose any holes that Virgil Ortiz may have. So Virgil Ortiz might want to be mindful of that. And as far as Porter, I think you all noticed Porter likes to irritate people in the ring. So that might impose some psychological issues for Virgil Ortiz. So it'll be interesting how Virgil Ortiz responds to psychological mental pressure imposed by those guys. So those are just my final thoughts on that part of your question, Courtney. And Courtney,
cool.
anything to add?
I didn't mean to take over. I didn't mean to take over the mic as far as like hosting.
Oh no, no worries, man.
I know you still got the position, man. I just, so I could not. I couldn't resist. When I saw an opportunity, especially when you're in FD and you really can't comment on those threads or me. So it's just like, I want to say something on that. Yeah, I mean, as far as I see it personally with Virgil Ortiz, my thing is, you already know, my thing is, I'm big on seeing things the way they are, not just the way I wish them to be or necessarily want them to be. So, I'm still seeing the fragmented climate as far as promotional, as far as television in the boxing game right now. So my thing is, Virgil is calling out people that really are on the other side of the street, and he has no prospects in the immediate future of fighting. As far, saying, Danny Garcia, no, that shit's not happening. Keith Thurman might be close to retirement than a lot of us think. Like, but even if he wasn't, that's a fight. That's an Al Haymon guy. Nope, not happening. Sean Porter, nah, not happening. Another Al Haymon guy. But the thing is, in terms of drawn boots, he's about to be quickly absorbed into that Haymon sphere of the boxing. On that street of the boxing, especially being closely linked with Showtime.
I like to call
my
it
thing is the Haymon sphere, yo. But the thing is, in the immediate, my thing is with Virgil Ortiz, if he's got the confidence to call out those guys operating at that level of the game, hey, Terrence Crawford, he's got a belt. He's very short of opportunities to be gainfully employed at this moment because he's calling out the same guys as Virgil Ortiz, and they seem or appear to really want no parts of that. So I'm just saying, Crawford's got a belt. Golden Boy and Top Rank have a recent history of doing business together and collabing. I think that's a good money-making move for both, for Oscar and Bob Arum. So I think Crawford, I I think Crawford would relish an opportunity to kind of extinguish Virgil Ortiz's flame. It's just like, hey, you guys are talking about this guy. Um, Nah, dead that. I think Virgil Ortiz would relish an opportunity to go in there and and to shut a dude who's as mean as Terrence Crawford down and to take his belt and take his position. So, what I'm saying? I think that's a fight that the fans should really be angling for, seeing Virgil Ortiz performing the way he did this what I'm saying, over the past this past event. So yeah, Virgil Ortiz, Terrence Crawford. To me, that's the fight that makes the most sense at welterweight. Let's see that.
Hell yeah.
Good points. Before I get to the last topic of the last segment of the episode, we got another lengthy comment from the guy Jaron Duke Reeves. Let me pull it up. Just to summarize, he says there's no one distinct style of U.S. Style of boxing. Corny, give us your thoughts on Jaron's comment right there. Unmute.
The print is really small on here. Can you read the comment or?
Yeah. So Jaron Duke.
Yeah, go ahead and read it back to me, man. I'm old. I don't see well anymore, man.
For sure. He says the U.S. also doesn't have a singular distinct style to call the U.S. style of boxing. This is great for the unicorns of the sport, who 99% of the coaches can make champions. From my experience, the foreign fighters have distinct style. They can go to any gym in their country and not have to switch their style for the curriculum. We don't have that here, which is good and bad. So, Corny, any thoughts on that comment?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because let's say you go to a country like Cuba, you go to a country like Ukraine, you go to these countries that have historically strong reputations within amateur boxing. Those, like I was saying, those gyms are nationalized. That's a nationalized system. Those coaches are on the government payroll. They've been there for, since they got into the game. And all those coaches are basically coming out of the same school because they were coached by people who came out of the same school. It's generational. Also, if you look at the amateur system in those countries, there's Eastern European countries, Cuba, Latin America. The thing is, those guys, they're not only in the gym, they're university students. They're doing, a lot like a lot of people don't know it. Rigondeaux he was close to a doctorate in exercise physiology before he defected from Cuba. The Klitschko brothers, Dr. Steelhammer, Dr. Iron Fist, both those dudes are legitimately PhDs. Because in Ukraine, when they were training for the Olympics, they were also university students studying sports medicine and exercise physiology, respectively. It's easy when boxing is academic as it is over there, and it's nationalized in that it has national funding, national support, because when you have university studies, when you have money going into university endeavors, and things are nationalized, the government's interest is not just in producing boxers that win gold medals or stand on podiums, but the interest in investing that money is also to turn out guys who are going to go to medical school after they win a medal, or guys who are going to go into the school system and become phys ed teachers and stuff like that. So, the thing is, those countries look at boxing as a source to the betterment of their country, because they already know these guys are not going to be in the ring forever. But if we can produce an A+ personality who is, who is just as dedicated to whatever they go on and endeavor to outside of the ring when they're done to this, then that makes our society better as a whole. And I think I probably got a lot deeper than Duke's question on that, but that's oddly, that's a lot that's behind it. When you see that style of boxing, and you see those guys come out of those countries where they have a system that's streamlined and everybody is on one accord. because there's a lot behind the scenes as far as government effort and government money that goes into that. In the United States, it's fragmented. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? These guys, they only come together under a national team coach and under national team support about a year, maybe a year and a half before the Olympics. And a lot of these guys, they're not allowed to bring their personal coach, like Sicker Steve. He couldn't bring his. Can you guys hear me? I know I went in and out. Can you guys hear me? Okay, so I know with Chris Stevenson, he's had his trainer, his grandfather's been with him since he was 3-4 years old, starting in boxing. He wasn't allowed to take him to Rio. You know what I'm saying? So things like that factor is where, in the foreign system, these guys are basically being dropped off at 5-6 years old at a gym that's sponsored by the government. As far as where these guys is, they have a coach who starts them in the game, and then if they aspire to do well on the national team at the international level, they have to pretty much forget everything they were taught and go to a national team gym where they're working with different people who actually brought them into the game. So, all those things, those really aren't conducive to having a U.S. or an American style as far as amateur boxing. So thanks for your question, dude.
I'm sorry. So I was saying, thank you, Jaron Duke Reeves, for that comment. Great points, Corny. On talking about the U.S. style of boxing and all that good stuff. So going on to the next topic, a preview of Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. I'm gonna keep my comments last of this segment. So Tommy, let me go to you, dude. So your initial thoughts when it was first announced, and let me get your preview of the fight, man. Come on.
Oh shit, son. Hey, Tyson. Let's do this shit. Let's do this. Tyson, let's do this. Hey, I gotta say, I'm the first to raise my hand and admit I love his talent. Disclaimer: I love his talent, but I'm a Roy Jones hater, man. I'm a Roy Jones hater. I've been that way for years and years and years, and I'm gonna be that way. I don't have no reason to change it right now. As far as just his career, I feel that it's overrated for what a lot of people give him. I feel that he ducked several people. I feel that he's only got really 2 or 3 really big names on his resume actually. And he was a human highlight reel in a time where boxing really, really needed that. And he came through. I love that he did come through. I love that he provided, very, exciting fights, and he could dance around the ring and do all of what he did and still just knock dudes out. I love that he could.
Wait, sorry to interrupt you, Tommy, but we actually got the one and only Montell Ice Griffin. How you doing today, sir? Montell?
Yeah, it's raining in Chicago. It's raining like cats and dogs right now. I'm sorry if the reception is bad.
Oh, no worries at all. Yeah, we could hear you. Hello?
We may have lost him with the reception.
Okay. Hey, Tommy, can you text him to log back out and try again?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Courtney, what you think, man?
Hey, we didn't lie to y'all, dog. We didn't lie to y'all. Hey, viewers out there, we didn't lie to anybody. You saw that. You saw that. We had Montell Griffin on the show. We're just experiencing some technical difficulties. He's experiencing some difficulties with the weather in Chicago, obviously. But as far as what my man Tommy Buns Rush Jr. said, man, regarding Roy, me personally, I was on that same boat. Me and Roy, we squashed the beef in November of 16 or 16, whenever the award Kovalev fight was in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? We dapped it up on the escalator. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure all has been forgiven. But I mean, yeah, I'll say I wouldn't say I'm a Roy Jones hater. And Tommy, you know Duke is about to come for you, right? And but I'm not. I wouldn't classify myself as a Roy Jones hater, but I'm definitely a detractor. Definitely his failure to secure fights at once from 160, 168 with the top three. I consider as far as Chris Eubanks, Nigel Benn, and Steve Collins. I think that is a very black stain on Roy Jones's career. I'm not saying he would. I'm not saying all those dudes would have beat him, but I am saying he definitely would not have ran the table in those three. I think Roy's excuses for not taking those fights have been very seriously lacking. I think that his fans give him a pass off that is a strong indicator that a lot of his fans are in that casual arena of boxing. So you know what I'm saying, that's just where I stand on Roy Jones. But you know what I'm saying, I've said it off jump and off top. Roy Jones is definitely he's definitely a treasure of American boxing culture, definitely a cultural icon, and definitely deserving to be a Hall of Famer when he's eligible to get in there. So, you know what I'm saying, that's my personal view on Roy Jones right there. Since you asked, Aaron.
Great points, Courtney. Let's try to get Montell. Mr. Montell, it's Griffin. Can you hear us?
Yeah, what's happening? Yeah, what's
good,
happening?
Good, great. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Before you joined us, we were briefly talking about your newly released autobiography, The Ice Life. Could you give us the thought process of making this book a reality? How long was this in the making? Your thoughts on that?
Look like it's buffering now.
Yeah.
I know he said it was raining when he did get in, so yeah, the reception was pretty bad. So it may be the rain that's going on with him.
Okay, Tommy, can you text him that I'll take him out of the room and have him come in maybe a few minutes later? Okay. So hopefully he'll come back very shortly. But yeah, so vivid answers to the preview of Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. So let's talk about, as far as that fight's concerned. Let's talk about Mike Tyson in particular. Tommy, give us your thoughts on his. What do you see coming out of him? Because you know he's been saying that he's going to come at Roy Jones at one speed, and Roy Jones will just have to deal with that. Your thoughts on that comment from Mike Tyson?
Hey, they both been talking some shit, man. Like,
yeah.
Hey, Roy said, hey, if he want to do something, I'm gonna do something back. You know? But I think that's the problem. You don't need to give Mike Tyson the chance to do something first. And if Mike is going to do something, we know what Roy's chin can do. So Tyson has been looking sharp. You know, yes, he's 54 years of age. He says 54 years young. You know, I just saw Joe Cortez talking about that. He said, "Don't call me 54 years old. I'm 54 years young." So he's been looking sharp. He's never really lost his inside quickness and that snap. He's always had it. He showed that to us in the line at stores. He showed it to us just at events, just wherever at the drop of a dime. So he hasn't lost that. You know, I think that if this gets serious at all, which he's already said, just like Courtney just mentioned, he's coming at one speed. They're calling this an exhibition. Roy said it himself as well. You know, you could call it an exhibition, but once people start getting hit, that fighter, that boxer mentality kicks in, and you hit me at this level, I gotta one up it. I'm gonna come back with something, and it ends up being a brawl. And if it's gonna be a brawl, I think that Tyson's gonna do that work that I hope he does. But I can also see it to where Roy still has enough in him to stay on his horse and be smart about this fight and keep it at a distance and things like that. So I hope Tyson does his good work and let them pigeons fly right all over Roy. So let's go.
We also got another comment from Jaron Duke Reeves. He says, I'm more concerned about Roy's legs than his chin. Corny, your comments, any thoughts to add on that comment from Jaron?
Man, how come I got to directly respond to every one of Duke's comments, man? Come on, Duke. Let other people get up on the line, man. Hey, you hogging, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Duke, do you want my number, man? You know what I'm saying? We can have no. Hey, I'm playing, man. I'm playing. Duke is with. Hey, I got a lot of respect for him, man. He's a guy with deep passion and deep knowledge for the sport. Obviously, I fuck with people like that, so I fuck with Duke, man. So I'm happy to field his questions. He said he's not concerned about. He's more concerned about Roy's legs. I just had a conversation with somebody on the messenger about this before I climbed on the air on this show. I said the exact same thing. The thing is with Roy is his legs. Listen, this is the comparison between Tyson. Tyson, a lot of things that made him great were instinctive. They were things that Cus D'Amato saw the first day he walked into the gym and said, I'm going to show him how to exploit this. That's what made Mike Tyson great. A lot of the things that made Roy Jones great are athleticism. And athleticism is temporary. Instinct, as long as you're of sound body and mind, instinct is always going to serve you well. Instinct is always a well you're going to be able to draw from. When you have athleticism, that's a well that's limited. And for Roy Jones, that's one that dried up a long time ago. So a lot of people, they're posting the latest video of Roy on the pads. The first thing in my mind that my attention went to was that his head and his chin were coming over his knee, his lead foot, which he always. If you think about, or if you remember the broadcast on HBO where he was, doing commentary work, he was very critical of fighters doing that. But when he was hitting the pads, he was doing exactly that. You know what I'm saying? I saw the chin coming out over the lead foot a lot, and when that happens, that's an indicator that your feet are too solid. Your feet, you got that cement block. Get the cement block sneakers on, and so like that's what I peaked with Roy Jones. And people say, well, he's got quick hands. Tyson's hands are fucking ferocious. Tyson's hands are a blur. Looking at somebody whose hands are, and Mike Tyson, whose hands are lightning. So you know what I'm saying. So I think this is, if this gets serious, this is not going to bode well for Roy Jones. You know what I'm saying? And I put a lot of emphasis on, who's got those reps in the ring, who's fresher, who's been more active. I think this is one of those situations where the fighter that hasn't fought since 2005 and who's been Tyson has adopted a vegan lifestyle, a vegan diet. Dude smokes a lot of weed, but that can be vegan too. It's like,
technically, yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? So you know what I'm saying? Roy, you know what I'm saying? He's as of late, he's looked like he's been invited to a lot of barbecues, and you know what I'm saying? He's accepted. Hey, shout out to plug it. You know what I'm saying? Plug it in the
shout out to PSH.
I'm not just, hey, go ahead.
Hey, maybe we can be friends. I don't know,
maybe. Tag up. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to mess that tag up. But you know what I'm saying? Maybe after this, Roy can link up with Tommy, you know what I'm saying, and get some of that smoke, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I think this is definitely a matchup where on paper, it might favor Roy Jones because he's been the more active fighter. But from what I'm seeing and just looking at, looking at the how these dudes are moving in there, body type, and just looking at instinct versus athleticism. Personally, I'm going to give the advantage to Mike Tyson. Also, one more thing, Roy Jones is still looking to a man named Tarver to hand his fucking chin back to him. And Glenn Johnson, holding a share of that too. So, and I think he spent the later part of his career trying to get that chin back from those dudes. But they made off in the night with that. So, I mean, if that holds true, if that holds true, if Tyson is as crispy as he is, and he lands on Roy's chin or lands anywhere on the up here with Roy Jones, I think it's a wrap. So I just I look forward to seeing a good fight. In a lot of ways, I'm kind of pissed off. That a lot of people are hyped over this fight.
Then the recent real fights.
This fight is a perfect.
Right.
Yeah, but this fight is a perfect response to the times that we're living in. So I can't. If this was any other circumstance and people were this all in to see this fight, I would be totally livid with the state of boxing, as it is, because there's so many other there's so many other guys out there trying to get there and trying to get our attention collectively at at a great point in their career where they're about to go and do great things, and we're kind of putting a lot of eggs in the basket with this fight between two dudes who are pretty much have already solidified their legends. But like I said, these times that we're living in, this new normal, maybe this is the fight that was supposed to happen to to keep to keep people bound and solidified in the sport, and keep the attention of the casuals, because I know a lot of the casuals are tuning into ESPN and see these top rank cards, and they're just like, who is this on my TV? But everybody knows this goes beyond boxing. These two dudes are cultural icons getting in there, ready to offer it up to us one more time. So, I mean, that is what it is. If people are stoked about it or people are happy about it, then hey, I can't really be critical about it. Like I said though, I'm a crackhead when it comes to this boxing. So if it's on pay-per-view, yeah, they already got my money. Y'all know that. But I just wish we were living in times where this wasn't such a high-profile occurrence in the sport. But hey, things are as they are.
Everybody think this is like Snoop versus DMX on Versus. Like you can't go channel just performing the song that was a hit 20 years ago. Like these punches are several decades old. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. Like we've got some other stuff that's been out there, like this Virgil Ortiz fight. There's been a lot of things that people that have been getting active other than these guys. So as I said earlier, I hope that Tyson makes Roy Jones look like Ring King on Nintendo when you used to knock that motherfucker out the ring and they just fly up and go over the ring.
Jaron Dukes Reeves, he has another question in this particular topic, and I'll answer first. He asks, who did we all have winning when those serious talks between those two fighters were being made 20 years ago? Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones. So let's take a time machine back 20 years back. Let's say, let's take it back then. So who would I have picked then? I would go still with Mike Tyson. For the same reasons Courtney mentioned. He has that Mike Tyson with that killer instinct, nonstop. The only thing that I would be worrisome for Mike Tyson maybe is stamina. If Roy Jones was able to stretch the fight further past 6 rounds, but I would pick Mike Tyson to win that fight if they face each other in their respective primes. Tommy, what are your thoughts on that?
I would almost want to know like what year we're talking about, because is this before he got his chin snatched?
Okay.
If it was prior to him getting his chin snatched, I might give it to Roy Jones because of what you said, Aaron, because that's the main thing that I was thinking. Roy would have had enough of his athleticism still back then, and not shown us his chin has fallen off the face of the earth, to withstand what Tyson would be able to bring. He would be able to keep that distance. Now, Tyson was absolutely, ferocious back then as well, but we knew that we missed a lot of Tyson's years and a lot with his inactivity, with his situation throughout life. So depending on what year, I would give it to Roy, because I think that he would be able to hold him off and give crispy enough shots that he could pull that out. But it could drop at the blink of an eye at any time with Tyson, and it could have back then, but. We know that when in those Lennox Lewis days, he kind of had some of his soul snatched a little bit as well throughout those later years. So, like I said, pending the year, Roy Jones, I would give the majority of the decisions I would give on this one. But there's some years back then where Tyson would have lit that ass up.
Good points, Tommy. Courtney, how about you, man? If they had fought in their heydays back then?
Well, I mean, put it in a proper historical context.
Yeah.
Roy Jones has said that the reason we saw the swan song that we did from him that lasted like about a decade too long is because he was never fulfilled. And he said he was always looking to get filled up because he had a lot of emptiness in that when he beat okay, who did he beat for the heavyweight title, man? I got that early onset dementia. I think it was John Ruiz. Yeah, when he beat John Ruiz and was the WBA, heavyweight champion. He held, that slice. He said his whole motivation for that was that he wanted to go up and get a belt so that he could get a fight with Tyson that would have been meaningful. And he said that not coming to fruition, he said that hurt. That hurt him. Emotionally. And mentally, and so that resulted in him going back down to 175, which he had no business doing, and and basically meeting the slow demise that he met as as the top fighter, pound for pound in the world. But getting to your question though, let's say that Roy Jones beats John Ruiz, is the WBA heavyweight champion. And he secures that fight with Tyson. At that very moment, I think Roy Jones beats Mike Tyson. Because, if we look at Mike Tyson at that time, Mike Tyson was not in the best place he could have been as far as his mentality in boxing. I think that was at the point where he was taking a lot of fights for the money. He was very disgruntled that, the money wasn't right when he was, getting those fights and getting in there. And he just had a whole host of just personal issues that he was dealing with in his personal life. And I think, I think Tyson came back to boxing when he was still trying to deal with a lot of trauma that he dealt with from the loss of Customato, from his time in prison, from the relationships of the people who were close to him that betrayed him. I think he carried, a lot of that weighed in heavily on him, and when he came out of jail, he wasn't able to process that anger in a healthy manner that made him the killer that we saw in the late 80s and the early 90s. So I think that was just a very different version of Tyson. So that version of Tyson against that version of Roy, I got to give a clear advantage to Roy. I think Roy would have went in there and moved on him and would have put on a very masterful performance. Maybe not as brutal as the one that Lennox Lewis put on him, but I think it would have been a pretty much a boxing clinic that Roy would have shown the fans and the boxing public in that fight against Tyson if it had happened at that time. But that goes fast forward to this proposed or this scheduled exhibition between the two. I got to give it to Tyson. I got to give it to Tyson now because I think he's cleansed himself of all those things that he brought into the ring that were not an advantage, but that were weighing him down. I think he's exercised those demons, and I think for the reasons that I'm gonna pick Roy back in the early 2000s. For the opposite of that, I'm gonna pick Tyson in the exhibition coming up this year.
Good points, Courtney. And Sean Fitzgerald from Just Boxing Live, he posted a comment echoing your sentiments, Courtney. He says, after the Ruiz win coming off his defeat of Ruiz, Roy would have been the odds to be the favorite. So yeah, very good points, Courtney. So I guess this will wrap up this episode. Before we sign off, I just want to give a final shout out to Montell Griffin. He was here briefly with connection issues, but at least he came in to at least patch in briefly. So as far as Montell Griffin is concerned, be sure to check out his book, The Ice Life book. The Ice Life. You can get it at theicelifebook.com. It details his pivots, his twists and turns of his career in boxing. It illustrates his journey from to making it to the the 1992 Olympic team, and his journeys behind the boxing scene. So a lot of interesting stuff in that book. So be sure to check it out. Before we sign off, let me start with you, Tommy. Any closing thoughts before we end it?
Hey, just first, we'll definitely be looking to reschedule with Montell, just like with Alfonso Gomez as well. I'll say tune in, all of the listeners and followers. We're keeping this thing grinding. We're looking to have even more special guests on very, very soon. So we got a lot more coming, and we're gonna keep bringing this motherfucking heat for y'all on these streets. And Tyson whoop Roy Jones's ass. That's what I gotta say.
Good stuff, Courtney. Any last thoughts before we end it tonight?
I first off want to say that I've tried Tommy Rush's barbecue, and it is the truth. You know what I'm saying? I said I'll let y'all do the plugs on that. Y'all are better salesmen than I am, but I'll just give a personal testimony. The food is good. It is the shit. But also want to thank Sean Fitzgerald and Duke Reeves for their continual support. They mess with us heavy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Always on the boards with us, talk shit, and I love you guys for it. And you know what I'm saying? We love you for loving us so much, and we really thank you for that. We hope we can continue to enjoy not only y'all's support, but tell a friend, bring a friend, hold them at gunpoint, make them sit down and watch the podcast and listen to it. Because I think the perspectives we're bringing on the show are purely unique and to what everybody else in the podcast game is offering at this moment. Hey, we hope you guys are blessed. We hope you guys are staying safe. Wear your masks, and we love you. And we'll see you next time.
Fuck Corona.
Yep. And also, our thoughts out to Michael Gomes and his family. He's dealing with some family stuff. That's why he couldn't make it on tonight. So our thoughts go to Michael and his family. Hope everything's all right. And everyone, that'll be episode 55 of the Standing 8 podcast. Again, thank you, Sean Fitzgerald from Just Boxing Live, and Jaron Duke Reeves for interacting with us on this live broadcast of episode 55. So I'm Aaron Soria from Los Angeles, Tommy Rush Jr. from Texas, and Courtney Tanner, who's from Cali.
I'm coming home soon, y'all. I'm coming home soon. I depart. I depart not August. I'm coming back. I'm sitting back stateside, y'all. Hey, thank y'all for supporting the troops, man. Thank you.
For sure. Welcome back home, Courtney. That'll be August, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, and tell Facebook to free. Hey, tell Facebook to release me from FB jail.
Hey,
Like, you know what I'm
free the
saying?
man.
Hey, start the campaign. Write your congressman. Write your governor. Write your senator. Write the president. Tell them to free Courtney Tanner from FB jail. I need to be back on amongst the people.
Courtney needs to be back not only in the States, but needs to be back in the virtual world that is Facebook. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, everybody. Have a safe night. Peace.